Hello everyone, this is Group A. For this video, we will have a musician app final presentation for our engineering design project. First of all, the goal of our project is to design and create a web application that helps musicians to organize and practice music. They are allowed to maintain annotations or notes to keep track of gigs. Also, musicians can collaborate with each other while practicing music from their band team. Then for the project requirement, currently the system has been achieved allow user to create an account to sign in or out and provide user a database to search for songs, artists, and albums. Moreover, user has been allowed to add songs to their library and playlists as well as to organize songs in their library and create personalized setlists. The system also has been enabled users to make notes and personalize details for a song such as uploading their PDF music sheet. However, our goal was originally planned to promote a collaborative environment by allowing the sharing and editing of the setlist for multiple users within a group, but so far we have not accomplished for that.
The approach we designed to meet our objectives is to implement convenient catalog management that gives users full control over their material through detailed customization. The application was to be developed with musicians of various genres and skill levels in mind, so it's important to allow the users to tailor their content to their own needs. To further save their time, users would also search for songs from a data catalog while also being able to manually enter songs. As mentioned previously, our goal was also to have users to be able to invite others to collaborate on materials of their choice, along with having the option to make a song that they've created public or private. The list of songs or set lists that users make would be shared with others. However, this goal was not met due to time constraints and limited knowledge on how to go about its implementation. The design we created was to develop our application using a two-layer architecture consisting of the presentation layer, which is the client side and front end, and application layer, which is the server side, including the database. It was to be hosted on AWS, but due to complications with getting a sturdy database developed, this was not achieved. Our main goal was to get a well-running and functioning application prior to the hosting, but since too much time was allotted for the development of the application itself, we never got around to hosting and refrained from doing so due to concerns about file and database organization. A modular design was adopted, so our system is subdivided into various modules. The front end and back end are two subsystems that communicate through RESTful API calls, and the front end actions are what triggers these API calls. To the right is a diagram of the application's design. Each of its subsystem layers will be discussed in further detail in the following slides. One of the subsystems of our project consists of front-end development, which is known as the presentation layer of our application. Among the tools and components used to implement this subsystem include HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. These tools allow us to incorporate a user interface and experience that is intuitive and conscious of the average user and their behaviors. The nature in which users interact with applications is taken into account in order to ensure that the UI is friendly and easy to use. This means that it should be simple navigation and foster a creative environment through the usage of colors, icons, and cool figures. In the design, we plan to specifically use the progressive Vue.js JavaScript framework to build the user interface and render data since it is incrementally adoptable and the integration with other libraries is made easy. Vue also allows for the handling of templates and more efficient front-end development. Templates are an essential part of our application since they allow for variables to be passed to the front end and therefore gives us the ability to create a dynamic website. It also makes it much simpler to design an HTML page and render the desired data. With the nature that Vue.js handles templates, it is able to efficiently re-render the minimal number of components accordingly to what is needed. To connect the front-end subsystem and the back-end subsystem, the application will make use of what is called a template engine, as briefly mentioned before. This will allow for communication to occur between the front-end and the back-end. Templates enable the development of dynamic websites by allowing message passing in the form of JSON, and the Vue.js framework allows us to use these templates. The template engines enable the usage of static template files, and during runtime, the engine replaces variables in the template file with the actual value. The template is essentially transformed into an HTML file which is then sent to the client. For Vue.js, its HTML-based template syntax allows for declarative binding of the DOM or document object model to the underlying instance's data. These templates can be parsed and then compiled into virtual DOM render functions. An advantage of using Vue.js is its ability to intelligently figure out the minimal number of components that is needed to be re-rendered and therefore increasing efficiency by only applying the minimal and required amount of DOM changes upon changing of the app state. The Vue.js framework, along with Express, the backend framework that will serve our application, will work with each other efficiently and will be implemented together to facilitate the creation of a user-friendly and dynamic UI.
Backend design. Now, our backend is a bridge between the front end and our database. Now, usually when it comes to a backend and a backend design, you think of more as the logic of the website, right? What each thing does, how data is retrieved, and how it's parsed and how it's passed to the front end. Thankfully enough, Vue does already a lot of the backend work when it comes to uh, parsing data or accessing certain types of data. Vue can already do that itself, and I will explain more later on the implementation part. But for our server, for our backend, which is a whole separate server, it acts like a bridge between the database and Vue. Now, Vue communicates to our backend server through REST API. REST API are your usual HTTP calls, your GET requests and POST requests, etc. It makes those calls uh, through an extension called Axios. Axios just simplifies uh, the API calls and handling. And when it sends a request, the backend will take that request. These requests have some data attached to it. It will take that data and it will put it into uh, a database query. That's how we call the database, and then it retrieves the information from the database and sends it back to the front end. All of this is possible thanks to Node.js and Express, and I will explain what Node and Express is later. Because we had to store user information like emails and passwords, song information, and group information, we felt the best approach for database design would be using MySQL. Now, MySQL is a very old technology. It allows you to create relational databases, and relational databases are everywhere nowadays. Like I said, very old technology, and businesses nowadays still use MySQL and relational databases, even with the rising popularity of NoSQL. Now, for the design itself, we use PHP-MyAdmin. PHP-MyAdmin gave us ways to create the tables themselves without writing the SQL itself and to visualize it. To the right, we can see tables in our database and how each key connects to each other. And we had to be very careful about these keys. When we designed the database, we had the queries in mind first. Because the database design came in later, we already had an idea of what we wanted in our application. Most of the development process for the backend and the front end was just using mock data. When we created the database itself, we had to keep in mind that data and how we were going to retrieve it. Thankfully, like I said, PHP-MyAdmin allows for easy creation of databases. It's a very nice tool that is very visual, and uh, visualizing a database is probably the hardest part of the creation process. Now, the queries themselves are also very important. The way we retrieve that data. We're dealing with a CURD application, create, update, read, and delete. So we need reliable queries, and we need to pull that data fast, and we have to do it smart.
Now for the project implementation. The implementation of the front end and the user interface followed what was designed for the project. The front end was implemented using the JavaScript framework Vue.js as mentioned before, and Vuetify, a material design framework for Vue.js, was used as a tool to implement the application from scratch so that only the components needed for the application were incorporated, and so that we can have full control and customizability from the very beginning. A UI component, such as a table or a button, was then implemented just as that. Having these components separated as its own element aided in a well-organized program and allowed for us to reuse code whenever a similar component was needed again. Pages were implemented as views, and components would be called within the code for that page so that it could then be integrated within it. A lesson learned from the separation of components was the importance of creating reusable code to save on time and effort, therefore increasing efficiency in development. The importance of organizing and naming conventions also becomes very evident throughout the progress of implementation. Especially with multiple people working on the project, the adoption of naming conventions would have allowed for streamlining of the implementation process. A functionality that was discussed but not implemented was the incorporation of summary statistics that would include information regarding the user's activity and progresses. This was to be in the homepage and display statistics regarding the user's library contents and their rehearsal patterns. Due to the database not being finalized until the end, the required information could not be extracted from the database. Instead, information regarding the top charts were displayed as it is important for musicians to stay current with industry trends. The music catalog that users could search from was obtained through Deezer's web API. Deezer is an online music streaming service. The catalog has about 73 million tracks, but in case a desired song is not found through the API, then they will have the option to add a song. The song that gets added by the user is then also accessible to other users through Muscat's general database, since it gets added there for record. The downfall of this is that if the user would like to privately upload a song, they do not have this option, so this would be a point for future improvements.
I mentioned Node and Express during our design section. Now I'm going to explain why these technologies are so important for our application and the whole implementation plan. Now, Node.js is the foundation of all of our code. Node.js is a fairly recent technology. It allows for back-end systems to be written in JavaScript. So usually when you write, let's say, a back-end application, you usually use PHP or Python. Well, over the most recent years, this changed thanks to Node.js. This is wonderful. It allows for both backend and frontend to be written in nothing but JavaScript. Node also gives you access to NPM, and NPM stands for Node Package Management or Manager. And what it is just a huge repository of pro-written code. Sometimes writing code can be really time consuming, and there's probably code out there that already does something you want to do. So instead of reinventing the wheel, you can just use npm and download all of those packages. npm is also the way Vue is installed and managed, and Vue it's all managed through npm. Now, Express is an extension of Node. It's an opinionated framework, meaning it doesn't hold your hand pretty much. You can set any way you want. The best way, it might be a little confusing. If you think of an opinionated framework, will be like Laravel, where it's the same process every time. Express is not like that. Express just allows you to do whatever you want. Now, Express shines when it comes to creating API calls. This is because it extends Node's default HTTP module, and Node's HTTP module is already very powerful. Express just builds on top of that, and it gives you easy access to it and simple ways of using it. It has built-in methods like post, get, and it has easy ways of handling these requests. testing. Now, although we try to test all parts of our application the most that as much as we could, most of our testing went to API calls and the database queries, and these are very important tests, of course. To test the APIs, we use Postman. Postman is just an API testing tool. It doesn't do much other than just that, test APIs. It's very popular in enterprise. A lot of developers use Postman, and it's probably if you ask a developer like what could you use to test APIs, they will say Postman because it's that big. We did some preliminary API testing before we started dealing with real data. Uh, I I personally did the testing. I created the APIs first with mock data, and then figure out how to connect to them, how the data was going to be sent, and how to deal with the JSON. Now, the other tool that we use to test, and this is for the database, it's a Visual Studio Code extension called Database Client by C. Weiyi. I hope I'm not mispronouncing his name. It's a open source tool, and it's very nice because it allows us to connect to a database from within VS Code, and it allows us to um, create the SQL very easily. Checks for the way you type it. Now, using this tool, we were able to migrate the information from PHP to our actual AWS database. Also, database clients, it allows us to create mock data in batch, so we can just fill the database with just random data to see how it would react or how it will be displayed. And this was especially useful. This test was very critical for our app creation. Before I start our project showcase, I just want to say that unfortunately, not all features of our application made it to the final product, and this is due to some time constraints and some poor design choices, especially from um, my part, the group leader's part. Now, this is our landing page. This beautiful landing page was made by my front-end engineer. I just want to give her credit for that. The landing page gives us some general information about the what the website is and what the purpose of it is. Now, if we go to login, it will take you to the um, login page, and we can put our email and our password. And when you log in, you're gonna be taken to your homepage. Your homepage will have statistics about your library and about uh, your rehearsals. Right here, if we scroll down, we can also see some top tracks pulled from the API in case you want to discover new music. My songs is your personal library. It's only visible to you, and it's the songs that you want to practice. Right here, we can see the title, artists, and albums. We also have some important rehearsal information like the key. We have labels, as well as last rehearsed and date added. Now, if you would like to add a new song to your library, you can come to the search section, or you can add a manual song, or if you click search, it will take you to the same page. Now, this is our global database. This is accessible to every user, and we made it this way so data retrieval will be faster. Now we can see right here that we have a couple of songs. If you don't see the song that you want to add, um, you can search it up. Now let's say I let's say I like Linkin Park. I don't see a song that I want in there. I wanna add this one to my songs, and we can see that the search option also searches through the our database, and we do have a Linkin Park song in our database, but it's not the one I want. Go to my songs. We can see that this is in my library now. Now, uh, the website also allows you to create set lists. These set lists are made to share with other people, or if you just want to have separate certain number of songs. Right here is an example of a set list, and I left this data just to see, just so you have an idea of what kind of data we're dealing with. And we can see right here that we cannot can change the order. Unfortunately, the drag and drop is not working, but the data does change in the array fine. Now, let's say you want to add a new song to your playlist. Open Mic Night. Can go to my songs, select the song that you would like to add to set list, open Mic Night. And if you go to your set list, your song is going to be right there. You can see that the data is also right there, and all of the important information is going to carry over. So if we use a song that has more information like this one, and if we want to open my Mic Night, open Mic Night, here we go. Everything is carried out. Now, if you want to create a new set list, you can come to the create new set list page. We can choose a name, and the name is very important. We can put a description, and you can also share the set list with other users. You can click save, and a new set list will the new set list will be on your list of set lists. And we can see it's empty because we haven't added any songs. Now, if you wish to delete a set list, you can click here, can delete the set list, and the set list is gone. Now, if you want to see more details about each song, you can come to the song, you can click over to the right, come to song details, and this will be all of the important information about the song. You have general details, which is things like the artist, the album, a YouTube video that to the song if you would like a reference. Personalization is more of rehearsing information of like the key of the song. The key can be different if it's a different if you have a different range, if you want the song to be played faster, slower, etc. If you want to keep track of all of that, you can do it on the personalization page. We also have a lyrics page and a files page, just in case if you have uh, sheet music for the specific song, or if you want the lyrics on a in a PDF file, or if you have even notes you can in PDF and you want to import them, you can use this. And right here we can use an example, this one. And we can add the file. You can see right here, it's just an example file. And that's our application. Thank you so much for watching.